Hello, my lovely people, and welcome to Owen's Mind, a light-hearted trip through the contents of my head and the world in general. It is Sunday, the 20th of October. My name is Owen, and here is what is on my mind today. So, happy Sunday, the end of the week, or the first day of the week, depending on how you look at it. For me, the end of the week. Working week for me starts on a Monday, so I'm being a little bit quiet because it's very early. I've been up since like 4:30 today. I just couldn't sleep at all. So I got up at 4:30. Did a little bit of research on the internet for some stories for you guys. Went to the gym, come back. It's still early. I've got to go. I'm really busy this morning, so I thought I'll, record the video now. But obviously, I'm in a building with other people, so I'm just going to be a little bit quiet. Okay. So, as always, I've picked out 5 stories making the headlines. What to give my thoughts on. Links are in the description, so you can read each article in full and show those original publications some love. So with that being said, let's get straight into it. And story number 1, this is a brilliant story to start off with. So this is in BuzzFeed News today. And a video shows how a football coach disarmed a student with a shotgun and then hugged him. So yeah, this is on BuzzFeed News, and surveillance video released on Friday. It's Parkrose High School in Oregon. And it shows how a football coach disarmed a student carrying a loaded shotgun. Real shotgun, and it was indeed loaded. Police confirmed it later. The video was released by Multnomah County District Attorney's Office and published by Portland's Coin 6 News. Okay, so the coach is he's called Keenan Lowe, and it shows him moving away from the student Angel Granados Diaz, and he was holding a shotgun out of his reach in the hallway. So Lowe's a security guard at the school, as well as being a coach, and he went to the classroom to get a student, quickly realised that Granados Diaz was just steps away from him, and he says, I saw the look on his face, the look in his eyes, looked at the gun, it was a real gun, and my instincts just took over. I lunged at the gun, put 2 hands on it. When I signed up to be a security guard, football and track and field coach at Parkrose High School, I did so to guide and coach young people whose shoes I had once been in. I had no idea that I would one day have to put my life on the line like I did yesterday for my students. So you watch the video and you see this student back out the doorway with a shotgun, and there's a teacher at the end of the hallway who reacts in a very reasonable way. He backs away, but then you see the coach come out and he just wraps his arms around this kid, and initially you watch it and you're like, yeah, he's restraining him, but he's holding him and he's talking to him, and then the teacher at the end of the corridor comes down, grabs the gun and disappears off. The coach continues to hold on to this kid and talks to him, and it's not, at that point, it's not restraint, he's not really gripping him, he's just got him, it's just, the whole image is just like, I've got you. The kid starts to cry, and it's just wonderful. It's wonderful because all too often we hear about these horrible, horrible situations with school shootings and things. There's been so much in the papers recently, and so much in the news recently about people being shot dead because they were armed or even suspected to be armed. It turns out some of these cases recently that's not been the case, but police have turned up and a person has died. So to see this story where essentially it ended in as positive a way as it was going to do was just brilliant. So another statement from the coach here, he goes, I felt compassion for the kid, to be honest. Obviously he broke down, and I just wanted to let him know that I was there for him. I told him I was there to save him. I was there for a reason, and that his life was worth living. Obviously Twitter got hold of this, and fantastic comments. So just to read a couple here, there's loads in the article. I advise you to go look at it, watch the video. So Subcorpus said, disarm with a hug, nicely done, coach. Systemic sarcasm, Coach Keenan Lowe disarming Parkrose High School gunman, obviously knowing there was so much more leading up to this moment for this young man. Humanity, it saves lives, bravo. Okay, so Angel was booked on charges of possession of a firearm in a public building, attempted to discharge a firearm at school, reckless endangerment and possession of a loaded firearm in a public place. The police say the gun was loaded with one round. One shotgun round can do a whole lot of damage. He pleaded guilty to gun charges October 10th, was handed a 36 months probation sentence. As part of the plea agreement with prosecutors, he will receive mental health and substance abuse treatment, and during his time in probation is prohibited from entering school grounds. But yeah, so, the kid's going through some stuff. What led to him taking his weapon to school, we don't know at this point. But the coach, confronted with this, just took hold of this kid. And at that point, once he was disarmed, he kept hold. And again, it wasn't a restraint. He didn't try and drag him to the ground. He was just talking to the guy and going, you know what, this isn't the way. You're not alone. We can get through this. And sure enough, he is. He's getting help. He's got a sentence because, you can't excuse the behaviour. But the fact that the behaviour was handled in a measured way by this gentleman is just fantastic. So, again, like I alluded to earlier, too often you will hear, had the police been called immediately? Had the police been the first on scene? This could have gone very differently. And do not get me wrong, and the cops and police do amazing work. Amazing work. However, when they're confronted with somebody with a loaded weapon and they are armed as well, the situation can escalate. I'm not saying had the cops turned up, this guy would have been shot straight away because the police are, used quicker to use deadly force. No, I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying if this kid felt threatened, he felt backed into a corner, and then he has weapons raised at him, which would have been a reasonable response for the police turning up. If you get a report as a kid with a shotgun, this is a US school, there has been tragically so many of these incidents. They're going to turn up and they're going to take what would be appropriate action. They're going to have weapons drawn, and had he reacted differently, had he felt threatened, had he raised his weapon, bad things would have happened. The fact that this coach was there first, and again, just the bravery of the other teacher in the video, like I say, initially backs away, but once the coach gets hold of this kid, he comes down the hallway, and again, that's a very brave thing to do. Just because somebody's holding something, there's nothing to say that he couldn't have struggled free. And again, he takes the weapon, immediately backs away with it, gets it to a safe distance. So, just a really, really positive story. I don't know what drove this kid to take a weapon to school, but whatever it is, hopefully now it can be dealt with, and he is around and he's safe for it to be dealt with. And again, if he's having problems, because it says he's now, he received mental health and substance abuse treatment, the fact that he got to a point where probably the most extreme point he was ever going to get to in his life, and it was met with love and compassion rather than being met with aggression and violence, is a brilliant first step for that guy. Because looking back, hopefully he's going to go, even at my worst moment, my absolute, there's not going to be a moment in this kid's life worse than this. It was met with another human being showing him love. So a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant story. A great one to end or begin the week on. So let's move on to story number 2. So story number 2 today. Okay, Chick-fil-A's first UK location will close after pressure from LGBTQ rights group. So this is, for those of you who don't know, Chick-fil-A, in the UK we don't really have it. This was the first one, it was a test one. So yeah, opened its first location in October. Been founded in 1946, it's been around a long time. Headquarters are in Atlanta, Georgia. The revenue is $10.5 billion US in 2018, and it's got 2,363 restaurants. So although in the UK it's pretty much unknown to us, I've only ever heard it referenced in movies and YouTube videos and things. This is a big deal, and they're looking to expand their outreach. They're number 3 at the minute behind Starbucks and McDonald's in the US, and they're looking to kind of spread outside that and kind of break that monopoly by going international. Anyway, so they opened a location in the UK, but after a week after it opened, the British Shopping Centre leasing location has already said it will not extend the restaurant's 6-month lease, and they told BBC that. This story's in CNBC, just in case they mention that. So, yeah, apparently the Atlanta-based company has faced criticism over the years and boycotts for its past donations to anti-LGBTQ groups, and the CEO, Dan Cathy's public comments opposing gay marriage. In April, the company lost out on 2 potentially lucrative airport contracts in the US after local politicians raised concerns over the company's anti-LGBTQ history. So yeah, I mean, a spokesman for them said that Chick-fil-A is always evaluating potential new locations in hope of serving customers great food and award-winning service. The 6-month pilot licensed location in Reading, UK, is part of our exploration in international markets. So, yeah, but your exploration is... This is the thing now. So my thoughts on this. It's a sign of the times. We are in a connected world. And any level of intolerance you display in a public arena. So if these comments have been made, I don't know how the CEOs previously vocalize these comments, if it was on Twitter, if it was a statement, if somebody asked him, or whatever it was. But anyway, it's out there and people can now react to it. And the reaction is this community who feels, this business is pushing back at them, got together and they pushed the other way. So much so that now this lease is not going to be renewed. You're not going to get your business. And being that this is their first location in the UK, it says a lot. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those power to the people stories. You can't expect to have bigoted views and then have people who've got a nice liberal mindset to come through your door and support your business. It doesn't work like that anymore. And maybe in the past, again, these comments wouldn't have spread the way they've spread, but digital age and, the fact that a company of this size that's been around this long wasn't aware of that. I mean, even though this guy is the CEO, what's his gentleman's name? Dan Cathy, so Chief Executive Officer. There's probably still a whole board of directors who are going, look, you cannot, whatever your private views are, they cannot be stated in the public arena. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, but you cannot vocalise it and expect it to not be some pushback. And, the community pushed back and it's been effective. So what they're going to do going forward now, because again, they've lost out in a couple of US airport locations, they've lost out in the UK now, whether or not they will try other locations and hope this blows over, whether or not Mr. Cathy will apologise, whether he'll step down for the good of the business, it doesn't say. But it's interesting, and yeah, this day and age now, you can't get away with things like that. They probably thought, it's just a few comments, and maybe the UK market might not be aware of it because we're brand new over there. Nothing's hidden anymore. So yeah, so the community, got together. We won't stand for this. And Reading Council, also it was this, I'll just give you a few more details. The Oracle Shopping Centre in Reading was where it was. And there was a Reading Pride, a local rights group, for advocating rights for LGBTQ people and communities. And yeah, the Oracle Shopping Centre agreed with them and said, okay, fair enough. Maybe they weren't aware of this when the initial lease was signed, but now that they are, they've said, we're not going to renew it. We're not going to support these kind of views, or a company who has a chief executive officer that supports these kind of views and also donates to groups that are anti, essentially people's freedom. The LGBTQ community, it's a lot to keep saying, that is your freedom. Your freedom to, live how you want to live, as long as it doesn't infringe anybody else. That's what you do. If you identify as any of these groups, you're completely allowed to do that. And when people are supporting organisations that push back at that and say that's wrong, yeah, you're not going to give me business. So there you go. Moving on, story number 3. Story number 3 today. Right, so a woman who stood on a ship's railing for a selfie was barred for life from a cruise liner. So this is in CNN Travel today. A woman was removed from a cruise ship and banned for life by the cruise company after she climbed onto her room's balcony railing to pose for a dangerous photo shoot over the ocean. So this happened on board the Royal Caribbean ship Allure of the Seas as it was approaching Labadee, Haiti earlier this week. Unnamed woman was spotted by a fellow passenger, Peter Blozich, who alerted the crew. He said, well, on his balcony, he saw the woman climb over the railing. It happened quickly. He didn't know her intentions, so he alerted the crew. If I said nothing and she was going to jump, that would have been horrible, he told CNN. So Blozich later posted a picture of the woman wearing a blue bathing suit with her hands over her head on social media. So she stood on the railing. She's got hands kind of wedged against the underside of the floor above. So essentially she's just wedged herself in tight. And apparently her partner was taking a picture for the social media, essentially. The ship's crew later tracked down the woman and removed her when the ship docked in Falmouth, Jamaica. Royal Caribbean spokesperson confirmed the incident, telling CNN in a statement, earlier this week on the Allure of the Seas, a guest was observed recklessly and dangerously posing for a photo by standing on her stateroom balcony railing with the help of her companion. So yes, somebody else was there with her. Security was notified and the guests were later debarked in Falmouth, Jamaica. As a result of their actions, they are now banned for life from sailing with Royal Caribbean. On its website, Royal Caribbean explains that sitting, standing, laying or climbing on, over or across any exterior or interior railings or other protective barriers is not permitted for guests and safety. So I can kind of see both sides here. I'm on the cruise liners side. I can see the couple, they probably thought, it's going to be a cool picture. I'm still on the railing, the picture's, taken from the cabin out. You're just going to see me essentially floating over the ocean. A lovely picture. And I can see why people want to do that. And they probably thought, I'm perfectly safe. However, the fallout would have been, had she slipped and fallen into the ocean. Number one, worst case scenario, she could have lost her life. That's it. That is the absolute worst. From the cruise liner's perspective, that ship then has to stop. And they don't stop on a dime. It takes time to stop a cruise liner. And they have to search and they have to try and get her out. And then there's lawsuits. And the lawsuits would have been extensive. It's like, well, why was this person even allowed to do that? Why do you have railings you can climb across and all this kind of thing? And it's like, railings are there. We've got everything on the website saying, do not climb, sit, otherwise cross these barriers. They're there for a reason. But we know what lawyers are like, and they will argue, well, the very fact that she was able to says that you haven't done enough, and it would have been a whole back and forth and just a big, big mess. So I'm on the cruise liners thing. There's a story we've got later coming up as well, and again, it's like the rules are there, and whether you agree with them or not, or you think they're unfair, unjust, when you agree to go on these ships or anything, if there's rules in place, you agree to them. Whether you like them or not, you abide by those rules. If you don't like them, don't go. But don't go and then break them. If you don't agree with the rule that's in place for whatever business experience, whatever you're doing, if you don't like the rule, don't take the experience and then break the rule. Just don't go. You say, I don't agree with that particular policy, I'm not going. Rather than saying, all right, well, I don't agree with that rule, so I'm going to go anyway, and then just break the rule. And expect there not to be consequences. So, again, the couple probably thought, you know what, it's just a cool picture. It's 2 minutes, who's going to know? But somebody saw, and again, the gentleman was like, I saw it from down the side of the ship, and you could see from the picture, he's quite a distance away, so he didn't know if she was going to pitch herself off into the ocean or whatever. So immediately he goes to the crew and says, look, there's a woman stood outside, because he wasn't to know, he did exactly the right thing. And I think the cruise line has done the right thing as well. Banned for life? I don't know, you could argue that, but in the moment, don't do these things. I know it's all about the selfies, but yeah, time and a place and all that. Anyway, moving on. Story number 4. This is the nice, cute story. Now, full disclosure, this one's been doing the rounds for a couple of days. but I just thought it was a nice story. So bride surprised with chicken nugget bouquet on her wedding day. So yes, this is on MSN News today. Maid of honour Jenna Spetz was thinking when she would forego the usual kind of bouquet of flowers for her cousin's favourite wedding, and she'd use Tyson brand dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets instead. So her cousin Blair Hardy had loved the nuggets since she was a kid, and she wanted to surprise her during her Ohio wedding with a bouquet of them. So she said, I tried to think of how I could surprise her during my speech. I immediately thought of nuggets, she told InsiderEdition.com. So she emailed Tyson, the manufacturer, and said, can you help out? And she didn't think they'd email back, but they did. So they overnighted a chicken nugget bouquet, which was inedible. So it's purely for show. But they told the bride that you can get free nuggets for a year, and they also catered the wedding with nuggets for the maid of honour's Jenna Spetz's toast. So they said, right, here's a bouquet for the flowers for the photographs, inedible. But here's a load of edible ones for when you give your speech, and the bride can have a year's free supply of nuggets when she comes into the restaurant. So, yeah, why not? Why not? So this is one of them story, kind of, weddings are normally quite very formal affairs and very stuffy. I've only been to a few, but they tend to be kind of, it's frowned upon if you break tradition, but it's like, this is your day. I think this is what a lot of people forget about weddings. It's your day, and it's probably the most important day in a lot of people's lives. So why not make it unique to you? Why not make it fit you and your particular humour, your particular likes and dislikes? So, yeah, maid of honour's like, I know the bride loves these, it'd be kind of fun. So they did, and the company went along with it. And you could be, it's cynical, they're just doing it for good publicity. Maybe they are, but everybody wins. They get some good press. Excuse me. You get good pictures. The bride gets free nuggets for a year. And whether or not she's still, said she was a big fan as a child, whether she's still into nuggets in a big way, I don't know. But again, it's just, it's a nice story. Yeah, I think the traditional side of things is changing now. It's going that way where it's like, it's more about what's going to make your day special to you, as opposed to, well, you have to have this and you have to have these particular flowers and this person has to sit here and this person there, and it's got to be suits and it's got to be dresses. And now it's much more, you get wedding themes and things, so it's much more, as it should be in my mind, it's much more personal to you. It's your day. Make it special to you. And, this was a bit of fun. So yes, moving on to the last one, pantomime villain. Last story. So yes, parking man, Britain's cruelest parking warden lurks in the pouring rain for 20 minutes to slap a ticket on a card for being 1 second late. So this is in the Sun today. Okay, mixed feelings on this. So yes, apparently a cruel parking warden waited in the pouring rain for 20 minutes to slap a ticket on a car because the driver was a second late. It has been claimed. Bear that in mind. The Jobsworth council worker is said to have lurked in an almost empty car park on a rainy Sunday to dish out a fine in Grimsby, Lincolnshire. Furious motorists watched the entire saga unfold outside the town's Fishing Heritage Centre last weekend. The bemused witness told the North East Lincolnshire Council, parking watched and waited to pounce last Sunday about 12:30. The unfortunate recipient of the ticket had parked outside the centre with a boy, braving the miserable weather for a visit. It's understood the visitors bought a pay and display ticket and made their way into the Heritage Centre at Alexandra Dock. But when they returned to their car, they found the ticket fixed to the windscreen. So, yeah, parked up, got a ticket, went inside, came out, and they'd been fined because they'd overstayed their welcome. Alright, so the man who watched the incident hit out. He said, I saw a man and a boy walking to the Fishing Heritage Centre. It was a wet and windy day on a Sunday, so they clearly planned an indoor activity together. Brilliant, as you would do. I also watched a parking warden wait outside in the rain and cold for 20 minutes just to give them a ticket. He was clearly watching and waiting to strike. It was as if he'd waited for 1 second past the ticket time to issue a ticket. It was disgusting. There was only 1 or 2 other cars parked up. It was an almost empty car park. Fines for overstaying your welcome in the car park can cost between £50 and £70. So the motorist said, if you can't park in an almost empty car park for free on a Sunday when it's chucking it down with rain, what's the point of coming into Grimsby to go around its only attraction? Why can't the council develop a free for 2 hour policy or make parking free on a Sunday like they have in North Lincolnshire? Especially useful in this camp because you probably end up with more people coming into town and the Fishing Heritage Centre. They could trial it over Christmas. Okay, so that's a good point. I'm going to come back to that. Council have obviously got wind of this and they've responded saying we appreciate people's views on such things and parking are constantly reviewed. We're constantly looking at the best options to increase footfall over the town centre and facilities we provide. However, we must also balance those decisions with our need to generate revenues, which is vital if we are to maintain and improve what we have to offer across the whole of North East Lincolnshire. So, a couple of points there. Number one, generate revenues. I don't think they mean by fining people and giving them tickets. They mean by charging for the car parks. So again, the story has been laid out and it's just a chance to give a parking warden a kick in. It's like a cold, wet Sunday. It's not his fault it's raining. You know, he's got a job to do. It's like, right, you're coming into work. I have to go into work in the rain. I don't lurk in the rain. It just happens to be cold and wet. That's the way it is. Like we said earlier about the cruise ship, the rules are there. And it's a really good point. You know, why not make it free on a Sunday? You know, if you're not drawing many people in because people don't want to come because it's expensive to park, then yeah, maybe there is an argument that make it free. You know, and have in this heritage centre just have somewhere you can donate. That's it. The money you're going to spend on parking or having, you know, you can donate in the gift shop and this kind of thing. Make a contribution, it keeps things going, local amenities going. And you can argue, well, people aren't paying. You're not getting your revenue from paying display tickets, but more people are going to come and they're going to go and spend money in local businesses. They're going to spend coffee shops and, you know, restaurants and pubs and bars and public attractions and this kind of thing. So it's, you know, you're going to generate revenue that way. So the motorist makes some good points, but that's not how it is at the minute. At the minute there is rules, and he was described in the article as a shocked witness. No, a shocked witness is somebody who witnesses something. Just briefly, I was there, I witnessed it. This guy apparently saw this man and boy drive up, saw them get out, saw them go into the centre, saw the parking warden. He said he watched the whole thing, and yet he said it was more than 20 minutes there. So he just sat watching this guy in the car, but what's he doing? It's kind of creepy. And again, he said it was like he waited till it was 1 second over. We don't know how far that ticket was over, and neither does this guy, unless he actually went over and looked at the screen. And even if it is 1 second over, how much leeway do you give somebody? If your ticket expires at, this is the thing, this is a slippery slope thing. If you get a parking ticket that expires at 12 o'clock, and there's a parking warden, you're like, well, I'll give it till 5 past, and if they turn up, I'll let them off. Okay. And then somebody else is like 6 minutes past. So do you let them off, give them a ticket? Give them a ticket, okay. And then the first person can argue, well, you know, I was 5 minutes over and you let me go, this person's 1 more minute. And it just, you know, at a certain point, you've just got to say, no, that's it. This is the cut-off point. It's like speeding in this country. People, excuse me. People always used to say, oh, you can go 10% over the speed limit, or you can do this and you can do that. No, it's not true. You can do 30. In a 30-mile-an-hour zone, you can get a ticket for doing 31. And people moan, going, I was only doing 31, I was only doing 33. It's like, well, what do you expect them to do? You have to have a point whereby the law says this. You can't have this grey area where it's like, well, you know, he was doing 35, but, you know, it was quiet, so it's fine. And it's like, it doesn't work like that, you know. And you can argue, yeah, there should be a little bit of discretion on behalf of people. Say, yeah, but you can't do this, you can't do that, because it just leads to arguments down the line. If somebody else is doing 33, but it's really busy, and so you give them a speeding fine, and then it's like, well, you let somebody off doing 35, yeah, but it was quiet. It's like, well, maybe it was quiet, but the fact that it was busier, you know, I'm still in control of the vehicle. I was doing less than he was doing, and you just get these snowballing arguments. So there has to be a cut-off point, and it was according to the article, 1 second. I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe it was. And in the article, it's very kind of, it could be this, it was almost like this. There's no definitive, yeah. But they showed us the ticket and it said, oh, this was, parked till 12:36, and it showed that the ticket that was issued was at 12:37, so we don't know that. So they're just purposely kind of going after, boo, traffic wardens. And yeah, I've had parking tickets, and you do get a little bit salty about it, but the ones I've had, I've been in the wrong. I know some people don't, and some people argue, and some people say I was given a ticket unfairly. No one's saying in this article that he still had, this driver had time left on his ticket and he was unfairly given it. It said no, he went over his time and he got a ticket. And you can argue, well, it was a second over, it was a minute over, it was an hour over. It was over. And again, you don't have to agree with it. It's one of them rules. If it's in place, you don't agree with it, fine, don't go. Don't go just to break it if you are going to go. And again, it could be that, if you'd come out and just said, oh, I'm sorry, we got held up in a queue inside, we got held up at a queue at the gift shop, so we're 2 minutes late getting back. If that was the case, yeah, you could probably argue that, that's, again, because you can't allow for things like that. So there does need to be a little bit of leeway there, maybe. But none of this is stated in this. It was just like, parking wardens are evil. This guy was lurking and he was waiting and he pounced, and all these kind of, parking wardens, like I say, I'm not a huge fan, because essentially when they're doing your job, if they're doing their job focused on you, it's going to cost you money. But yeah, so I'm actually kind of on the traffic warden's side here. I'm like, he was out in the cold and wet. He probably didn't want to be there. Oh, it was a rainy Sunday. He was out in the cold, and you're like, yeah, he probably didn't want to be. I wouldn't want to be. I don't like working outside now, and I have to do when it's cold and wet, and it's miserable. The car park was nearly empty. Yeah, maybe it was, but it's not free on a Sunday. And again, if you start letting people off, where does it end? So yeah, whoever this traffic warden was, I kind of feel for him a little bit. The papers really kind of made him out to be this, the worst one in the UK. Is he really? You don't know. He's just doing a job. So there we have it anyway. So that's it, guys. Let me leave it there for you. Links to all of the stories I've discussed can be found in the description below. So feel free to go check them out. Let me know what you think about this video, and tell me, if you were to break tradition, what bouquet would you have at your wedding? What would be in it? Would it be a food? Would it be a particular thing? What would it be? Or a wedding you've had? What did you do that broke tradition? Okay. Let me know in the comments along with any thoughts you'd like to share. These were mine. They're not necessarily important. They're not necessarily right or wrong. They're just what was on my mind. So until next time, bye for now.